Welcome to Per Her Perspective, a podcast of raw, relatable conversations on leadership, challenges, and solutions in running a business, often with the support of smart peers. The show inspires business owners to grow, make bold decisions, and go bigger with confidence. I'm your host, Marla Noel. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Per Her Perspective. My guest today is Kristen Croxton. Kristen has been in the commercial real estate lending space for more than 28 years. Kristen, with her partners, owns Arcus Harbor Real Estate Capital, LLC, to provide clients with the best financing solutions available in the market. Kristen has originated more than $20 billion in commercial real estate loans. Prior to forming Arcus Harbor, Kristen was a senior vice president of Capital One Multifamily Finance and its predecessor company, Beach Street Capital. With her partner, Greg Reed, she expanded the company's presence in the Western United States by opening its Newport Beach, California office. Earlier in her career, Kristen was a vice president of originations, Freddie Mac product manager, and senior underwriter for Deutsche Bank Berkshire Mortgage. Welcome, Kristen Croxton, to Per Her Perspective.
Thank you, Marla. It's great to be here.
You have an interesting past. Can you tell me what was it that motivated you to start your business?
I think, honestly, it was a lot of years of working in large corporate spaces and feeling like over time, the focus from the client was not the number one priority anymore. So a couple years ago, my business partners and I decided that if we really wanted to do the best we could do, we needed to go out on our own and build a business that was just focused on what was best for the client. That was kind of the driving force there.
Yeah, I do think it makes a lot of sense to be proud of what you're selling to people versus getting the most bang for the buck, right?
Yeah, yeah. This is
Yeah,
a relationship game, and that was that, it's not just about closing deals, but it's about the relationship you're building for the long term. So it was
yeah,
important for us to be able to deliver what we needed to do.
good. What was it that created a fire in your belly?
That's a great question. I think both my parents worked, and so I think seeing them be motivated themselves and every day getting up and doing what they actually I think they both enjoyed doing. So my dad was in finance and my mom was an accountant. I don't know that she'd love that job, let's be honest, but but she enjoyed the people she worked with, and then she went on to do a lot of volunteer work and ran a museum and some stuff like that. So I think watching them and seeing how provided for the family and what we were able to do because they were hard workers was great. And then I was fortunate enough to get into an industry that I really enjoyed from the very beginning, even though it was my third major in college. But I think for me, real estate is really something that's tangible and I can see it. And so I can see the outcome of what I do. So if I do a construction loan, if there's a project at the end that existed that wasn't there before, or if I'm providing financing on some affordable housing with that, it's those things I think that kind of keep me going that after 28 years in the space. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I want to comment, two parents in the finance realm.
yeah.
I mean, you had to be numbers driven because of that, right?
Mm, I always liked math, so it wasn't too far, but I thought I was going to go to school and be a physical therapist. So, because I really loved the sports side of things too. But one semester of chemistry, I cured that real fast. Then it was move over to business.
It's funny. I've heard a number of people originally interested in medicine find that chemistry is what killed their
Oh,
interest.
yeah. Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah. I don't think an 8 a.m. class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday my freshman year was a good choice either, but
Oh,
it's
jeez.
okay. I'm happy with how it played out. The universe worked the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, that's true. Do you have a mentor that helped you in business?
Yeah, I've been fortunate over the years to have really great exposure to a lot of men just in general to begin with, but in the second half of my career has been more women, and that's been great. I would say that my biggest one would be Grace Hubscher. And Grace was one of the co-founders of Beach Street Capital, which was where
Okay.
my partner and I went after Deutsche Bank. And that was fascinating. We got there maybe about a year and a half after she'd kicked off the business, but watching her grow that and then ultimately sell it to Capital One and kind of having a front row seat to that was really interesting. And I learned a lot from her, and she's fabulous. And she's retired now, but has been involved on the Freddie Mac board for a long time. I think she just left there, but it's just fascinating to watch what she was able to build.
Yeah, good to hear somebody say that they have a woman mentor. And again, it's kind of like women in sports, women mentoring. It's an up and coming.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's exciting to know that there are women out there supporting other women. So good. What were your college years like?
I mean, they were great. I went to James Madison, University in Virginia. It was great for me. It was 8 hours away from home. So it was a new, fresh start. Growing up in New York, everyone expects you to apply to the New York schools, and I didn't apply to any of them. So I needed something new, a little different adventure. But I loved it, and I had great teachers in the finance space, which was awesome. I was able to do semester at sea. For a semester in my junior year, which was on a boat for 100 days, and we went around the world. It was pretty fabulous. It definitely fueled the bug to continue to travel and explore new everything, food and cultures and economies, all sorts of stuff. And then the friendships that I have from there are great. There's a group of 11 of us that still, I don't know, today's text chain was probably 4 texts, 5 texts so far, but we're
Nice.
all going through that phases where we've got kids in high school and college, and it's a great network for me. It's been there since we got to school. So
Wow. That's so nice.
yeah.
That's an amazing experience. I'm jealous. I did not do that. What one or two things do you think made the most positive impact on the growth of your company?
I think having trusted partners has really
Yeah.
been key. And so for Greg and I, we've been partners since 2005. When we first partnered up, there were not a lot of partners in the sales space. A lot of times you'd have a more senior person and they would bring in someone junior to continue to grow their team. But in the case of for Greg and I, we were put together to take over some accounts for people that had left when we were at Deutsche. And so we came in at level playing field, both of us, day one. And that was, I think, has helped keep the relationship easy because it's always been 50-50. And understanding what each other's strengths and weaknesses are and kind of being the yin and the yang has always, like, I think, kept us in a good spot. And then we were able to bring in 2 new partners. Again, we'd worked with them for a very long time as well. We've been with Tina, had been with us since 2005 or six. And then Andrew came in '08, I think. So that's kind of the biggest piece, I think, is having partners that you trust and know.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard to bring in all you need for running a business in one person.
Hmm.
So I think having good partners that you trust it is really a valuable thing when you can find them. So
Right.
not always easy to find them. But
Yeah.
is there anything that you wish you had done sooner?
I mean, I would say starting the company, I think I wish we had done sooner now, looking
Yeah.
back, other than that, like within the company itself, I think I would have liked if we had set up a more, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a more robust, like, support system with regard to, like, some of our accounting and things and HR related stuff. That's kind of been trial by fire, but it's been interesting. It's a whole new level of work. But so I kind of wear some HR hats, a legal hat, a
Yeah.
CFO had. I've been transferring money around in the accounts to make sure we're, getting interest and, all these things that I was obviously not on my radar before when I worked for a big corporation.
And that is not unusual for an entrepreneur to find out that all of a sudden they have these hats that they
Yeah.
were not expecting. And it isn't always fun for people.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's
especially
a bit.
the HR part can be torture sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. Do you have any disciplines that you want to share with others about good business management?
I feel like I took some notes because I wanted to be good on this one. But I think my biggest thing is being responsive. So, and this has kind of been things that I've told my analysts and staff that we've worked with over the years is always just be responsive. We're in a customer service
Yeah.
space. And so responding, basically immediately, even if you don't have the answer, is just acknowledging that you received their email, you're working on it, or you got their voicemail, whatever the case may be, and then following up after. But I think that's kind of like the one thing that we've always been proud of is kind of the customer service. How in the business that we do, there's a bajillion people that do it. So the only thing that separates us is really our execution and customer service. And so that's the piece of it you got to focus on.
Yeah. I know one of your clients who is incredibly happy with you,
Yeah,
so
thank you.
it must be working.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. He's a long-term client too. He's great. So,
Yeah, that's good. I understand that you have a husband and a couple of children and
mhm,
a dog named Howie.
mhm.
How do you manage that work-life balance?
I would say it's a lot easier now, even though the company is, we're running a company versus before. But I think because all four partners highly respect that work-life balance and spending time with family, that it's a lot easier. There's a lot less guilt than when we were in a corporate space and I felt I was being like watched and had to clock in and clock out. Now, I don't need a badge in anymore. I'm available when I need to be and we get our work done. But we all don't want to miss. And that was part of starting the company was that there's so many things that we didn't want to miss, so many
Yeah.
school events or things that go on during the day that were challenging to just disappear to do for a little bit when you're in that corporate space. But we have a much more flexibility now. So it's been easier.
So I know a little bit about your son in sports. And I just learned that your daughter is writing a book, and
She
we
is.
kind of went back and forth a little bit about books. And do you like the same kind of reading that your daughter does, or what kind of
No.
reading material do you go
Yeah.
for?
Yeah, I'm kind of the black sheep because my husband and my daughter love all of the Harry Potter stuff, the fantasy, Divergent,
Yeah.
Keeper of the Lost Cities, like all of that stuff. That's my daughter's dream is to be an author. So she's working on writing her first book and we're trying to support that dream as we can while she's going through, looking at colleges and the such. But for me, I really enjoy like historical fiction and biographies. So I read a lot of, I was kind of like thinking about it after we were talking about it and I put it kind of together a list. And apparently I have a proclivity towards like women leaders actually. So my most enjoyable books that I'd read have been about like Eleanor Roosevelt and Madeleine
Mhm.
Albright. And, uh, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, like a lot of those type of books. And then a lot of the historical fiction is kind of a lot of Kristen Hanna, Kate
Yeah.
Quinn. Those have been my kind of the big reads lately. And what else? And then I do a decent amount of reading regarding housing in the US and kind of the inequities involved with that and the history of it. Since I'm in that space from a work perspective, it's interesting to understand how we are in the place where we are. So,
Yeah. Well, that's hadn't really thought about that, but yeah, there's infrastructure around where we live and how we live.
hmm
And it's just so different from the Midwest to California to back
hmm
east.
yeah.
So, and you've had a chance to live on the East Coast and now the West Coast. Was there ever a middle? Did you ever live in the
No,
Midwest?
no, I
No.
fly right over. Yeah. No, I don't mind visiting. Chicago's fun, but,
Yeah.
yeah, just
Yeah.
yeah, DC. I lived in DC after college and then just outside DC in Arlington and then moved out here. So, yeah.
So what'd you think about living in DC? Because I had some relatives that lived there and it just seemed like such an exciting place.
I really enjoyed it. Having grown up in New York and just an hour outside the city, we would take the train in, and the city was fun, but for me, it was much more of a go in and out. I interned one summer for a firm in the city and took the train in with my dad, and I was like, this is not a game plan for me. Like that is some serious commitment getting on the 6:12 a.m. train and not getting home till whenever. But I like visiting New York. But DC is much more manageable. The metro system's super easy. There's always something going on. So I think it was a bit of culture shock when I moved to California. I was like, what's everybody do? Where's all the museums? Where are all the monuments? But, it's obviously it's got its own special things here too. But I loved it.
Yeah.
And if people always say, well, if you had to move, where would you go? And I would go back to DC for sure.
Yeah. Wow. So how about, are there any regrets that you have in running your business?
I think other than like I said earlier, just starting, I would have started earlier if I'd known, how much fun it would be, but, just and how rewarding it would be. And really just having that solid support system and maybe doing a little bit more research behind like all the things that we need. Thankfully now with AI, I can, I've been using Claude and Chat to like the other day I created a spreadsheet. I have these three entities that are the company entities, create me a spreadsheet that shows me all of the places where I owe taxes and the due dates and the forms And then I sent it to my accountant and said, tell me this is right. Right. And then, so I got his feedback, and that's like just trying to get myself on track. I think sometimes I feel like I'm playing catch up, and we did miss like certain filings in the first year. So I don't want that to
Well,
happen again.
yeah, yeah. I think that's easy to do. And sometimes we have to rely on those experts like our CPAs to
Hmm.
make sure that we are paying the right things at the right time, but hard to know everything. So
Yeah.
I love though that you're using Claude and Chat GPT for things like that because it's just, I mean, years ago we didn't have that. And now
Yeah.
it's like if you can integrate that, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've been trying to use it more and more. I'm not nearly as advanced as some of the women in our WPO group, but just trying to use it for more than just like making a grocery list and planning a vacation. Yeah, trying to use it for business more.
Yeah. I was just listening to a Cal CPA webinar on AI and all the different things that you can do with AI. So great information.
Yeah.
Um, what advice would you offer to other business owners or people who run large divisions of business that would help them?
I think I feel kind of redundant, but I do think that like surrounding yourself with the right people is crucial to getting things going. And I think also having partners that have the same vision. So, and kind of values. So when we started the company, we hired a consultant to help us put all that together. That was to make sure we started on the right foot. We thought we all knew what we wanted to do, but we wanted to make sure that it was all teed up. And I think that was super helpful.
Yeah, great idea. I think some people jump into it and then find out they don't have the same values,
Right.
which
Yeah.
that'll kill you. I know
Yeah.
that. I think Jack Walsh in his book Winning mentioned that if your values don't align with the company, which, employees or partners, then you need to fix it because
Yeah.
values are something you just bring to the table, hard to change them. So, if I asked your employees what they thought of you as a boss, what would they say?
That's a great question. I think that I would hope that they would say nice things, but I think that I do try and be a good mentor to them. That's something I do internally, but also externally with crew and some other stuff. But so I think being a teacher, I probably would get a little bit chastised for being a control freak. So that's definitely one of the things that I'm trying to grow out of as we try and build out the company. I need to recognize that I can't control every little piece. Yeah, it's a lifelong goal.
Yeah, I don't have any words of advice for that one. But since you
Yeah,
mentioned Crew, tell me
yeah,
a little bit about Crew. What is Crew and
sure.
how long have you been involved with it?
Yeah, so Crew is Commercial Real Estate Women. So it's an organization that's nationwide, but we have like local chapters. So I'm in the Orange County chapter. And the whole purpose is to just support women in the commercial real estate space. And when it was formed, probably, I can't remember, it was in the 90s originally, I think. And there was not nearly as many women in the space. When I joined in the early 2000s, there wasn't nearly as many, and certainly not in the
Yeah.
sales positions. Like there's some spots where you'll find women are traditionally there, but not so much in sales roles. So I've been a member since the early 2000s. I've sat on the board in Orange County. I have co-chaired the multifamily housing council at the national level, and I sit now on the executive advisory board for Orange County. So I found it to be super useful. Not so much, and everyone always says, like, "Did you get business from that?" But it was more for me about networking and creating relationships, and
Yeah.
then having resources for anything I needed in the commercial space. So my attorney who does, 90% of our deals I met through Crew. When I have questions, I mostly focus on multifamily, but sometimes I have a retail deal. I have people I can talk to about that. And so it's been a great resource. And then I think having those opportunities to have leadership positions within the chapter has helped me grow as a manager and a leader within the
Yeah.
companies too.
Yeah. Um, and since you mentioned it, how few women were in Crew or in the world of finance, how has it been to be a leader in women in finance when you got started, so few?
Yeah. I think a little bit of a benefit was that I always had Greg as my partner, not in the very beginning, but when I moved into the sales space, Greg and I were always partners. So we would walk into the room and at least I had a partner. So it wasn't just me. But, when he started, he was only 22. So I think, while he walked into the room, then I had a lot more experience. So I could answer the questions. So I think it was a
Yeah.
lot of just proving myself over and over again with clients.
Mhm.
But I feel like I was fortunate in that I've always been in supportive spaces. At Deutsche Bank, I was in their VP women's program, which was a national group that they flew us to New York, and we did all sorts of trainings and the things that can help you build confidence. Try not to focus on imposter syndrome, those kind of things. So that would have been in the like early 2000s. And Capital One was very similar in supporting women in the space. So I think that from that perspective, I've been fortunate.
Yeah, good. Well, I know interest rates are higher
Hmm.
than they
Yeah.
have been in the past, so it makes it a little harder to get a product that'll be beneficial for your client. Um, I know eons ago I had a derivative and got a fixed interest rate, which ended up not maybe being the best. I mean, it was good to secure this is my ROI.
Right.
So
Yep.
what's your favorite product right now in this world of high interest rates?
Yeah. I I would say it really depends. Everything is so deal specific and like capital structure specific. So it depends on what the borrower's long term goal is. We're doing a lot of floating rate right now just because the general consensus is that in the next couple years, I mean, in theory, I don't know that I totally believe this. So so the fluctuating rates is a challenge, but I think we've been doing a lot of floating because a lot of clients want to hold out and see like, will rates come down in 2 or 3 years? So they'll just do a short-term floater to kind of bridge the gap before they put long-term debt in. Some of them need the floating rate debt fund options because they'll get more aggressive on structure, and some of them haven't had the ability to fully execute their business plan because some of them, like the markets have been not as strong, so we haven't seen as much rental growth, or they had some floating rate debt in place and the replacement interest rate caps, which you're talking about, the ones your derivative, right? That those ate up all the cash flow that they were going to use to capex to renovate units or the such. So there's just been a lot of challenges to kind of clean up. And then with rates being so much higher, when their debt's due, we're just not supporting the NOIs, not supporting the full debt right now. So there's a myriad of issues. So it just depends on what your goal is. But if you're a long-term holder and you just time your debt is just maturing, the debt isn't terrible. It's just the last 5 years have been very favorable. So I think people have short-term memories and they don't
Yeah,
they don't remember what it was like in, other times.
Ye
They
no,
just
we
remember
kinda
0%,
yeah, 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 we've been a little bit spoiled in,
Mhm.
low interest rates, and really that's probably not a good reality,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. And I think people got very like set on budgeting based on those lower rates, and that's where people got in trouble. So
Yeah,
yeah. So my
so
goal is
catch
just to
up.
help people keep the deals, right? Like we don't want clients to have to give back the keys. The idea is to
No,
try and find some debt that helps them, in the interim.
yeah, yeah, good, so you are a member of WPO, and I am so happy you're a member of
Thank you.
WPO.
Me too.
Um, how do you think that has helped you with running your business?
It's been great. I was just blown away. Even just like the first meeting I left, and this has been the greatest investment in myself and in the company. The people, the women in the room are everyone, even though we're not all in the same industry, there's some tangential space to it, and then there's others that are completely not related. But everybody has the same things that they need to think about. So it's just having their perspectives on it has been super super helpful. And then the connection's helpful. I used Erica to write my employee handbook. So there's lots of ways that I've been helping keep the company in good shape by the people that are in that room. So it's great.
Yeah, good. And oh, look at this. This is kind of a self-aggrandizing question. How has your chapter chair helped you?
She's been fabulous, actually. We really enjoy spending time with Marla. But I think what's great about you is that you are always like pushing us to think about the hard questions. It's very easy for us to all sit around and talk about kind of what's working, but and it's harder to dig into like what's not working and why. And I think that you do a great job with the questions you ask and how you ask them to make us think harder about what we're working on and why we're working on it. So it's been great for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we have done a little issue processing. So how
Yeah.
do you feel that
I,
about that?
yeah, I love it. I think that's probably, I mean, I enjoy everything we talk about, but I think when we go through those, that's the most valuable part of, I think, when, the immediate takeaways when we're leaving a meeting. I think even when you're doing a topic, again, like that I think maybe doesn't really apply to me. But then as we dig into it, I can see how like, oh, well, like that ties to me somehow here or there. And, I end up taking just as many notes as the person that whose issue we're processing. Right. So it's been super helpful.
Yeah, good. It's amazing how many issues, underlying challenges are common in a
Hmm.
lot of the issues that we discuss.
Yeah.
It's like, how can I use that? And the peer review, that's something that WPO created. Um, and although it's not, I mean, some other peer organizations use something similar. So, and this is why I'm such a fan of peer groups because it really gets us thinking about all the different issues that we maybe need to fix in our businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I think the one
um,
we did the other day was great when we talked about like estate planning and making sure that you've got that, personally, but also for the business and how that's going to play out. Cause I think that's very easily something you could overlook. Um,
yeah, and a lot of people don't, we all have issues that affect us. Some not until we're 90 or
right.
100, but
Yeah.
some in our 50s and 60s. And when you're running a business and it's you, and we talked about, well, what happens if you get hit by a bus?
Right.
Which is a
Yeah.
terrible thing to think about,
Yeah.
but in reality, you want your business, if you're in the hospital for a month, you want your business to survive.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I've used
Um,
it. It was helpful because I brought it back to the office in my head, and for me, the goal is to retire in the near term. And so, what I have thought about after that was like, I really need to put SOPs in place for that's why I made that spreadsheet for the taxes, doing the same thing with the licensing that we're required to have in the state. So I'm just going through and creating all of these things now, just for the what if scenario.
yeah, yeah. So your passion extends beyond business. What other things do you like to do besides business?
Yeah. I love to travel. That's kind of my favorite thing. And it's as my kids have been getting older, it's been even more fun because they're just easier to travel with. They're kind of, our buddies instead of we used to say it wasn't a vacation, it was just a relocation. So now now it's a vacation and it's fun. So
Yeah.
we try and take a couple of big trips a year. Which is great. We're going to the UK this summer. We're going to go to F1. So we'll go to Silverstone for the races and then tour
Nice.
around and then actually leave my daughter there for 2 weeks for a program that she's doing it at Oxford. Yeah. So that'll be fun. Other than that, I mean, I enjoy cooking and I have a little garden. So I have my veggies. And I mean, I think the travel part is really the big thing. But I feel like tied to work, but I'm very passionate about affordable housing and making sure that there's housing. So I sit on or I'm an advisor to a nonprofit called Innovative Housing Opportunities that develops affordable housing in Southern California. And I think that's kind of a place I want to spend more time when I'm retired and kind of where I have more, I can add more value and more time to it. But
So affordable housing in Orange County, what direction is that nonprofit going towards as far as helping the homeless in Orange County?
yeah,
Or is
so
it homeless?
yeah, ours are more, the ones we're working on are more, they kind of have a couple different pockets. So they focus on seniors, focus on
Mhm.
veterans, transitional age youth. So a couple of different areas there and family. I mean, it'll cover anything, but it's all just low income. And I think and I shouldn't say that's not just all low income. The point is to create like multi-level housing so that it's not just all one income level that's in like
Yeah.
it because it's inspiring to see people as they go up the ladder, so to speak. So it's kind of varied levels of income restriction and rent restrictions, and then providing services like job training and childcare, after school programs, things that can really help you move to the next level.
Yeah. That's so important. I'm involved in the Boys and Girls Club of
Hmm.
Central Orange Coast, and some of that is after school programs for the kids, which continues on their education and keeps them up to speed and helps their reading ability and math and gives them options for maybe music where that's their
Hmm.
interest.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned that participating in nonprofits because that's how I was brought up to do, to give back.
Yeah.
But there are an awful lot of people that don't do that. Was that something that your parents did? Just
Hmm.
so as a kid, you were always like, that's what you need to think about. That's what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. My parents were really big in a organization called Family Service League on Long Island, and my mom sat on the board, and that was always something. And then when they moved to Park City, she focused more on the art space, but it's always something they've worked on. So for sure, it's always been there. And thankfully, there's a lot of real estate organizations that are tied to some level of nonprofit or supporting different. Mostly the stuff I support is in the real estate space, or like adjacent, with the services. But yeah,
Yeah, good. So, what is it that drives you above all else? What gets Kristen
yeah.
going?
I mean, I really love the thrill of a deal, like winning a deal and then getting to the finish line and like having a happy client. So that, like, everything that we do, and that's again why we started the company, was to create like the best opportunity. But I think for me, it's like solving a puzzle. Every deal is like a puzzle, as we talked about earlier. Not every loan structure works for every deal, so it's trying to dig into it and figure out what the game plan is. And so that's it from a work perspective. I think outside of work, it's family and friends, just like, and I'm a pretty optimistic person, so I think it's just easy to, when I'm focusing on those things, life stays happier.
Yeah, yeah. I get the impression you're pretty competitive. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, yeah. A little bit, yeah. The other
Yeah.
day, we were playing, my son and I were playing ping pong, and my parents came over and they were like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm crushing him. What do you mean? He's 14. It's okay if he loses." But yeah, so yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, do you have a question that you would like for me to ask? What is it that I have not asked you yet?
Yeah. Oh, I have a question for you.
Ah,
Actually, I wanted to ask you, what has been the most enjoyable part about doing this podcast since you started it?
wow, that's a good question. Um, I so I always like learning and learning about the technical aspect of making things work so I can do this podcast.
Yeah.
And as we got on, it's like all of a sudden my mic that worked yesterday does not work today. So
Yeah.
it's like learning something new. That's always fun for me. But
Mhm.
more importantly, I'm just always curious about people.
Mhm.
I've been a people watcher all my life. What makes you tick? What is it that started? I'm jealous of entrepreneurs
Well, you do it.
because being a CPA, I struggled. I had to join Vistage to understand the entrepreneurial mindset.
Mm.
I wish I'd done this sooner.
Yeah.
And
So
this
the
is
common
when
theme.
I hear people talking about their business and they sound like they could start their own business. I call myself a pusher. I'm going to push them.
Yeah.
So I've pushed a few.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Great.
they're grateful.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm sure. And
Yeah.
the push is important. Otherwise, it's very easy to just sit in the background and not go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to start your
Yeah.
own business, but
Yeah.
like you said, it was a good thing to do and you wish you had done it sooner. So good for you for doing it.
Thank you. Thanks.
And thank you for being on the show, Kristen. I
Absolutely. Thank you for
appreciate
having me.
your friendship. I appreciate your being a member of WPO,
Thank
and
you.
I am really happy that you're here on Per Her Perspective.
Thank you. Thanks. So great to be here. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to Per Her Perspective. I'm your host, Marla Knoll. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss what's next. To go deeper, check out my book, Drama Free Management, a practical guide to moving teams from high drama and low performance to low drama and exciting results. To connect with me, visit my website, ocgrowthadvisors.com. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and perspective.